Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the Digital Selling Secrets podcast. On this podcast, we talk about digital transformation, sales, and leadership. And on this podcast this morning, we have a very special guest. We have Glenn Lundy, and then we also have our co-host, Jerry Mann. Glenn, thank you for joining us this morning.
Hey, man, it's an honor and a privilege, and I totally appreciate being here, and I appreciate your flexibility for us being here today, this week on May 2nd.
Absolutely. Yeah, what a better way to kick off a Saturday morning, right?
That's what I'm talking about. This is beautiful. I love it.
It's my dad's birthday today, too. So, hey, Dad, this is your birthday present, all right?
He might want something a little more than just an interview with Glenn, but just saying, between you and I, he might want something a little different. Awesome, man.
Jerry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say happy birthday, Jack.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're taking the kids over there a little later today, but yeah. So Glenn, tell us a little bit about your background. I know you have a podcast, you have your morning show. How did all this get started? And can you tell us a little bit about some of those shows, just for those that are tuning in?
Yeah, man. So, I am a husband to one and a father to seven. I'm also a 20-year automotive professional and the host of what I believe in my mind is the wildly popular Facebook Live show, #Rise and Grind. And really the digital side of things for me kind of kicked in probably in the last 5 or 6 years as I was growing this dealership that I was working in, and I was starting to realize the power of social and organic reach and things like that. And so as we started to grow, our dealership grew like ridiculous amount, 800% over a period of just under 6 years. And as the dealership grew and we started getting more social reach, reached a point a couple years ago where I was like, we've got to create, a show. Like there's so much negativity in the world. There's so much, violence and so on and so forth. And I was like, how can we create a place where it's positive, where there's nothing but motivation, education, and inspiration? And how can we do it consistently so people know that they can count on us and weave in some marketing into the whole picture, right? And do all that. And that was kind of the birth of #Rise and Grind. So on January 6th of 2018, we did our first episode, and I've been going live at 5:30 in the morning, Monday through Friday, ever since. We've done 604 episodes as of yesterday morning.
Wow.
That is exciting. Yeah, we had a podcast host on our show a few weeks ago, and he was saying the average podcaster will only have 7 shows before they quit, right? Yeah. Man, 600 shows. That just shows. I mean, imagine you starting off. It didn't start off with a ton of viewers. I imagine it grew over time, huh?
Yeah, no doubt, man. Especially at a 5:30 a.m. time slot, right? I'm going at 5:30 in the morning. So I think the very first episode, sometimes I'll go back and look at it because I'm like rubbing my eyes. I'm like, oh, the light, it's too bright. What am I doing? And I just look awful at 5:30 in the morning. And here I am going live with like 6 or 7 other people. And now fast forward, I've been doing it so long, and I've gone live from I was in Greece, and so I was on a different time zone, but I still had to do 5:30 Eastern. And when I'm over in California, I have to do it at 2:30 in the morning. And so we've made all those adjustments, but now we get, anywhere from 5 to 10,000 viewers every episode. So it's been a long, consistent show up grind. And there's been plenty of days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. It's so early. My wife tells me I'm the only entrepreneur in the world that has to wake up at 3:50 in the morning and be at work by 5, right? So it's been challenging, but it's been an incredible blessing, man. It's really been incredible.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you had one of my inspirations on your show. I guess it was last week or the week before, Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
And man, I've been following him for the past few years now, just consuming his content, his books, his training courses. I even bought me a 10X jersey here. I'll probably be wearing that on one of the shows here soon. But yes. So when your podcast was growing, was there a turning point or was it just kind of just constant hard work and it just incremental growth over a period of years, or what did that look like exactly?
So what I found is as the viewership grew, I'm a big believer that, you know, what our mamas told us, we've got two ears and one mouth, right? So I like to listen. So as my viewership started to grow, I started to ask some questions and I started to listen. Like, what do they need? What are they looking for? How can I better serve them? And the more I pour into the individuals that are listening, the more they're going to go tell their friends, hey, you got to come watch this, or you got to come join this. So it started as a morning show. And then everybody was like, man, we want like a group that we can be in that's nothing but motivation, education, and inspiration. So we created the Rise and Grind group to go in line with the show. And then people started saying, well, we want t-shirts and polos and hoodies, and we got to have a, you know, a logo and so on and so forth. And so we created the hashtag Rise and Grind logo, which I think I have one on the back of my polo right now, right? So did you see it back there?
No. Okay. Nice. Yeah, I didn't see that.
Yes.
So we created, you know, the Rise and Grind logo, and we started creating t-shirts and polos. And then people were telling me that they needed a planner so that they could plan their days a little bit better. So we created, you know, the Rise and Grind planner.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it really spawned from just a show to this community, and people would get their shirts and they'd post pictures with their shirts, which people are like, well, what is that? And then that drew more people. People started posting with their planners. What is that? So now we have a clothing line, we have a show, we have a Facebook group with over 30,000 members in it. And what we've done that's really special is we took that group and we've taken it offline. So we've had some meetups, we've had some events where people get to meet offline. We've raised money. We raised $120,000 in 24 hours to battle human sex trafficking. So kind of like treating it like a church, right? Like it's this
Yeah.
big online network, but let's break it down into some small ways that people can connect. Let's serve them as best as possible, and then let's go out and serve others. And by doing that, we've just been able to grow and spread. And it's been, golly, man, it's hard to explain how incredible it's been.
Yeah, that is so exciting, and it's amazing how I kind of got plugged into a couple of different groups. One was Grant Cardone and his 10X movement that caught my attention, and then also Russell Brunson has ClickFunnels and
Sure.
and his group, and and Jerry and I have a corporate background. We're in the B2B sales space, and both of us have had businesses that we've owned, but primarily our background is corporate sales. So it's interesting getting plugged into those groups that are more entrepreneurial focused and entrepreneurial minded, because I think having that element and taking it to corporate sales brings a lot of value, because it brings that innovative mindset versus a strictly process driven approach to sales. So very exciting. So tell us a little bit about your typical who are the types of people in your group? Are they sales professionals? Are they who's part of your I mean, is it different types of groups between your podcast and your Facebook group, or yep.
Yeah. So like attracts like, right?
Yep.
We're gonna attract people that align with us, that maybe believe some of the same things that we believe, and that our energy enhances and increases their energy is typically how the human race works and develops. If you back when we could walk through malls, if you'd walk through the malls, you could always tell, like, those four guys are all buddies. They're dressed the same, right? And this family's kind of dressed the same, and so on and so forth. You can see those things because it's just human nature. So my group is a lot of people that are very similar to me. They're typically in that age range between like 30 and 50. I'm 42, so they're right in that 30 to 50 range. A lot of people with kids and are married, because I'm a husband to one and a father to seven. Very few have as many kids as I do, but a lot of people with kids, and it's a lot of people in automotive, of course, because I've got an automotive background. So a lot of people from that. And then, of course, like self-development, people that are into self-development, into the Grant Cardone, the Jim Rohn, the Tony Robbins, the John Maxwells, the Les Browns, the Eric Thomases, all of that stuff. It's people that are kind of into that as well. So when you round it around, it's crazy, man. We're 51% women, 49% men, which is amazing to be able to create a place where both women and men really tend to enjoy it and grow and thrive. And really, it's just people that are trying to become the best versions of themselves that they can possibly be and have a servant heart to want to go out and make an impact in other people's lives.
Exciting.
Glenn, you named a lot of these authors, if you want to call them that. Like,
Sure.
you know, who are your biggest influences among all these inspirational and motivational leaders?
Man, if you could, you know how everybody's got like a Jiminy Cricket, like in Pinocchio, it was a little Jiminy
Right,
Cricket.
yeah.
I got like 100 of them they're all sitting down my shoulders and my arms on both sides, man. They talk in my head all the time. So each leader, as you grow and develop, especially in the self-development world, each leader kind of has a season and a time to where they help build your foundation in life. So when I was first coming out of homelessness, first coming out, you know, I've been to jail, things like that. When I was coming out of that season of my life, like Eric Thomas and Les Brown, those were my Jiminy Crickets, right? They were right here on my shoulders. They were pushing me and yelling at me and smacking me around and all of those things that Eric and Les are really good at. Les is really good at helping you see the growth in the struggle, right? Like he gets emotional and talks about being born, you know, an abandoned baby born in a warehouse and all of those things. And so that season for me was Les and Eric. Now, as I climbed out of that, started to have more success in business, more success like with my wife and in my relationships, then it started to shift a little bit more to the John Maxwell's, the Jim Rohns, the Bob Proctors, those types of things that are more like strategic as far as building a business or strategic as far as creating financial wealth. So a little bit different season there. As far as now, you know, Grant Cardone's been a consistent through the whole thing. I've been learning from Grant Cardone since I was 19 years old. So he's always been a part of everything that I do, and he's always in my ear. But I'd say now I'm starting to look at like Ed Milet. Ed Milet's got a lot of stuff going on, and he's kind of at a level that I hope to achieve one day. And I think that's really what it's all about, is find someone that's at that level that you hope to be at, but you can still connect with at the season you are in, and then start to continue to change that circle as you level up and level up and level up.
Makes sense. Makes total sense.
That's so powerful. And I think it's so helpful for especially sales professionals. I guess no matter where they're at. I was going to say sales professionals when they're first starting out, but any time in their career. Because I remember when I started out in a 100% commission sales environment and working for a corporation, and it's easy to get beat down. You know, it's, you know, got to meet your numbers. You have your quotas. And if you have some sort of influence or some sort of tribe that you're part of or group that you're part of, that really builds you up and keeps you 100%, no matter, because sales is a tough, I mean, you know better than anybody.
Oh yeah.
It's a tough industry, tough field, and it doesn't get the respect it deserves. So tell us a little bit about your sales background. I know you've worked with some different automotive dealerships in the past. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I started, you know, I've been a salesman forever, dude. I've been selling forever. I used to go buy boxes of blow pops at
I did that too.
Yeah, man, you could get them for like $4, and if you sold them at a quarter a piece, you'd make $12 a box, man. So I was known as the candy man, you know, as a kid, and I knew that the teachers weren't going to be cool with it, so I started by like selling to my teachers first. Right. I got the teachers on board, and then I'd start selling to all the kids in the school. So I've just always been in sales. So it started with candy. And then, you know, as I got older, made some mistakes, sold some things I probably shouldn't have sold. And then I went from there to America Online, man. I was working for a company called Sterner and Klein, and I was selling America Online over the phone to people who had canceled their accounts and hated America Online and had gotten billed for 6 months when they weren't supposed to get billed. And here I was calling them like, hey, you should come back. And they're like, we hate you. You're the devil. And I'm like, no, we're going to give you 6 months more free. Right. So I did the phone sales thing for about a year, a little over a year. And then I saw an ad in the paper that said earn $5,000 a month guaranteed. And I was like, woo, that's all the money in the world right there. And it turned out to be a Nissan Subaru dealership. And so I went there and got hired and sold my first car, which was a yellow Nissan Xterra, to a young lady that couldn't drive a stick shift. So I took her up in the woods and I taught her how to drive a stick, and she
Wow.
drove it off the lot that day. And I've been hooked on the automotive side of sales, ever since. So I worked at that store, Nissan Subaru store, for like 8 years, got kicked in my teeth, did the 80-hour weeks, ruined all my relationships. Life sucked outside of work. Like, it was all of those things, but I was really good at it. And it actually left a bitter taste in my mouth. So I left the auto industry after 8 years because I was like, everything around me was crashing down. The only thing that was good was like my career, because I just happened to be good at sales. But I didn't have any life skills. And I didn't have any moral compass, and I didn't have any of those things. And so the auto industry kind of gave me a bitter taste. So I left that, went through a season of trying to find myself, which was rough, landed in Kentucky, built my own business doing free poker. So we were doing free poker tournaments in bars and restaurants all over the state of Kentucky. I got sponsored by Budweiser, and I did that whole thing. And that's where I met my wife. And then she got pregnant, and then she was like, bro, you cannot hang out in the bar every night, 7 nights a week till 3 a.m. We got babies to take care of. And so I went back into the automotive industry at a great dealership called Dan Cummins Chevrolet and Buick in Paris, Kentucky, population 9,600. And I just went in with a different mindset that I wasn't going to allow the industry to ruin my life. Instead, I was going to make an impact on the industry. And in doing so, we were able to grow that dealership from selling 120 cars a month to March of 2018 was our best month. We sold 1,043 cars in 27 business days in a tiny little town, population 9,600. They told us it couldn't be done, and we did it. And then now I am working with dealers all across the country. I have over 40 dealerships that I work with. I work with the leadership, the owners, and the general managers to help them have similar success as what we've had.
Wow, that's so cool. When you mentioned when you first started in your career, there were some things that you mentioned that every sales professional should think of, I think, and that is, you mentioned the stick shift, right? Teaching her to. So you identified a problem, right?
Yep.
And you added value, and you solved that problem versus just going in with the features and benefits of the car, which was very neat. And then you grew that eventually in your career to, defeated all odds, basically. A small town.
Don't forget, kicked in the teeth. I think that's really
Yeah, exactly.
Over and over and over and over and over. These teeth are newer teeth, so they look good, but the ones I used to have were beat up, man.
Cheers to that.
That's a perfect story for if there's a sales professional tuning in right now. They need to really think about that. Is you added value. You got kicked in the teeth. You kept going, and then you defeated all odds. I think it's easy to look at some of the negative things that are out there. For you, example, you could have said, "Oh, this is a small town. Oh, I'll never be able to sell anything here." But then you set record numbers despite the constraints that were there. You were able to innovate and overcome that. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, Gary, let me touch on that real quick. One thing that I've learned, and man, I've been around the block a couple of times, man. I hate to admit it. I'm getting up there in age a little bit, and I've lived in 17 different states, and I've had seasons of broke and poverty and seasons of wealth and success. And one thing that I've learned is the magic, the miracle, and there's even biblical text that talks about this, but the miracle is in what's left. So people are always focused on what they don't have, what they lack, what's missing. If I only had, if I could, right? There's all these ifs, and they limit themselves, when in reality, the resources that you have available to you right now, whatever that looks like, if you focus and dial in on those, what is left, and create from there, that's when the magic happens, man. That's where the miracle is. So at that particular dealership, we never looked at, well, we don't have enough people, well, we're in a remote location, anything like that. Instead, we looked at, what do we have? Well, we have great products, right? General Motors makes a great product. We've got great products. We have the ability to hire and place and train great people, right? So we got great people, we got great products. We have technology, man. We have digital, we have internet. It used to be you had to buy your dealership close to a freeway, right? So that people could see it and drive by. Now the information freeway is all around.
Yep.
Right? I can sell cars to Seattle, Washington. I can sell cars to Florida. I can sell cars to Wyoming. I don't have to just sell cars to the people within 12 miles of my dealership like we used to have to do 30 years ago. You know, so things are 20 years ago. So things are just so much, there's so much more available. And if you look at what you have and create from where you are, it's amazing what you can accomplish.
Glenn, I really, really like what you said there, that about focusing on what you have and what you are as opposed to what you don't have. You know, I've managed sales teams as well, and you know, we salespeople tend to be a little needy sometimes,
Sure.
and let's be honest, a little whiny sometimes too. And I've been there, and I have teams that have done that as well. Like, well, if I only had this, I would have hit my number. If I only had that, if I
Right.
only, you know, that person is this, that person is that. That's why they're doing so well. And I really like what you said. Well, if you focus and think about what you have, and improve and focus on that. I had a really good manager once who told me, he said, Jerry, you know, we all understand our weaknesses, but if you focus on your strengths, you can be a whole lot better. So
That's right.
I really appreciate what you said there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem, man.
Yeah, that's very powerful. I mean, even if you're not in sales, just to hear that message.
Right.
I know we're running short on time here, Glenn. If somebody wants to reach out to you, I know we've mentioned some of your shows. Do you mind sharing that one more time for those of y'all for those that have tuned in and just now listening to the show?
Sure, man. The easiest way to get to connect with me is just go to glennlundy.com. And if you go there, you'll be able to connect to the Rise and Grind group. You can connect to my 800% club where I'm working with dealers. You can connect to any events that we've got going on, my Instagram, my Facebook, all that stuff's in one-stop shop at glennlundy.com.
Nice. Yeah, I think Jerry and I fit into your, based on what you've described, I think we're a perfect fit for your group. So we'll be tuning in on a regular basis as well.
Exactly.
Beautiful, man. Be glad to have you guys. It'll be great to get to know you even better.
Absolutely. Well, for those of y'all that have been tuning in, thanks for tuning in to the Digital Selling Secrets podcast. Stay tuned for future episodes on B2B sales related to leadership, digital transformation, and of course, sales. Thank you.